Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to the most sci-fi week of your lifetime. Between Mass Effect Legendary Edition and all the Starfield news bits that we're getting, this week has been full of space, if you will. And now we're getting into Starfield's release window, a very hot topic in our industry. And this one really just spotlights Elder Scrolls 6 is way further off than we expected. I played Skyrim in high school, okay? And you're telling me I'm probably gonna have to wait till I'm 30 to play Elder Scrolls 6? Hit the reset button, because I have been waiting for this game and it should have been here yesterday. I'm sorry, it's me, your calm host, Mr. Maddie. And as promised, we're getting into Starfield in this very video, talking about, as I said, its release window, which is a bit further off than what has been reported across the entire industry. So what we're really spotlighting today is, of course, what's going to happen at E3. What can we expect? Why is Starfield a bit further off than what was anticipated and reported? And that, in turn, will really shine a light on some conflicting reports and some follow-ups I've personally done on my own as a part of my reporting. So if you're looking for more information on Starfield, this is the place to be. If you're looking forward to stuff at E3, this is definitely the place to be. It's going to be a really good time. Looking forward to all the game reveals we're going to be checking out together. Be sure to subscribe. Like button helps out a lot too, just saying. But anyway, let's get into a lot of tweets from Jason Schreier. It begins with Luke Stevens, who posted a tweet saying, apparently Starfield has been, quote, pretty much done, end quote, since September of last year. Bethesda Game Studios has spent this year polishing it and refining the next-gen port. I'm told they're trying to make up for Fallout 76 and deliver a game that's polished to perfection. Coming this year, watch. Jason Schreier took an opportunity and quote tweeted this, saying, rumors like this keep floating around, but Starfield is nowhere near done, according to several people familiar with development. It'll be at E3, but the planned release date I've heard is way later than most people expect. Sharing this so that folks keep their expectations in check. Now, Jason follows up with a bunch of other tweets. Let me make this very clear. Bethesda's plan is to tease a release date for Starfield at E3. That date is in late 2022. I'll leave the specifics to them, but please keep your expectations in check and refrain from sending death threats when the other rumors turn out to be false. What people might not realize is that the bulk of Bethesda Game Studios, including the Maryland office, was working on Fallout 76 until it launched. Starfield's team was very small until 2019. Rumors that the game was planned for 2020 or far into production then are just not true. I've seen some skepticism about this point, to which I'd recommend you just look at the credits. Whoa! That is quite the bombshell of a report there, because as I spotlighted earlier in this video, that goes against everything that we have heard across the industry, from myself to other insider reporters like Jeff Grubb, what we've seen on like Xbox 2. I mean, there have been lots of reports across the industry. Hey, Bethesda internally desires to have this game out 2021 in the fall. And now we're hearing late 2022 from Jason Schreier, who, love him or hate him, has a pretty fantastic track record. And now what I did is, as I said, some following up, some talking with Jason. We'll talk about that in a second. But what I really want to talk about is what Todd Howard has said versus what Jason's saying now, because I think that's just as important. As you have an insider who would likely have this type of information at the ready saying one thing, but Todd Howard said something almost entirely different. So let's talk about the notion of reveals for Bethesda Game Studios. They've established since Fallout 4, we like to reveal in the summer and release in the fall. Keep that window as short as possible. Here's Todd Howard's exact thoughts on it just very recently in 2020. Some people at Bethesda think the studio should show off its work more. Keep that in mind. But Howard says that his preferred approach is, when we show it, we can really be able to show what the final product feels like and looks like, and we're closer to release, so that we're 100% confident in, here it is, here's what it does, and here's when you can play it. He also points out that preparing trailers and demos and assets, they take away from development, and I'd rather spend all that time focusing on the game. That alone there, a comment in 2020 during the Develop Brighton interview with Todd Howard, would more than likely just suggest that, once again with Starfield, the re-reveal, if you will, and the actual release date of this game would have been close together. Why would it suddenly change now? I have some theories, but we'll get to all of that later when we really hone in on just Starfield. Right now, I just want to talk conflicting information and sort of what might be going on. Let's talk also release windows and development timing more so. So here's what Todd Howard said about when this game entered active development, a thing I've said a lot on the channel, but for those who are new here or who need a recap, this is pretty important information to have in contrast to what Jason's saying. In an interview with The Guardian, Howard says, "We've been talking about it for a decade in regards to Starfield. We started putting things on paper 5-6 years ago, so that's pre-production, and active development was from when we finished Fallout 4. So 2.5-3 years. Now, this comment was made when Fallout 76 was revealed. It was in the summer, so this would really put it around, like I've said before, when Fallout 4's DLC ended, of course, in August of 2016. Now, as we all know, with Fallout 76 releasing before Starfield, I know I'm stating the obvious here, but I'm sure many of us anticipated there was an interference there. Of course, when they also had to fix the game afterwards before all of the reins were handed off to Bethesda Game Studios Austin. But as I said, kind of what Jason's saying here does conflict a little bit with what Todd Howard was saying. Keep in mind, a lot of this was pre-pandemic, whereas what was said in the terms of the reveal and the release for Todd Howard was during the pandemic in 2020. At the heart of this conversation is really the 2021 fall window that Bethesda was reportedly targeting, from reliable industry insiders who had a good track record to ones who had better ones like Jeff Grubb, who said that Starfield was targeting a release in late 2021, but of course, COVID was a complicating factor thrown in there. I as well had reported in the past that Bethesda is looking to release Starfield in 2021, but I also stated for my own sanity that delays are possible and this can be a 2022 game. Before I dive into my own follow-up with Jason Schreier, I would like to spotlight one thing is that I did consistently say across multiple reports targeting, desires to, wants to, and I know how the internet likes to twist things out of context, so here are some clips across videos from the last number of months of me specifically saying that properly. So there is always the chance that this game gets delayed into 2022, which is something I've also said that, hey, 2021 is the year, but with COVID, it is a possibility that 2022 is where it slips to. I have been told 2021 is the year for Starfield. That is the goal. They want to have it revealed at E3. The point being is the intention is to at least unveil Starfield in some way, shape, or form this summer. So get ready for that. That is something that is pretty close to locked in at this point in time, and I would say you can expect it. And I saw someone when I clarified that, hey, there is the chance Starfield gets delayed into 2022, a comment was posted saying, well, it's just so that he's not wrong. And to me, I wanted to emphasize that nice and upfront here that people seemingly don't understand the nature of game development as it is, let alone pandemic game development. They want it out this year. There's a difference between wanting to unveil it and when it will release, however. That's the conversation here. That's the nuance that I think is missing when people are posting these headlines. I know for some that seemed unnecessary, a time waster, but look, I know how the internet works. No one actually came after me, which was really nice to see. Most of my audience understands it, but I know some people will try to use it against me. I've been very clear. They wanted to release it in the fall. They were desiring to do that, but this could have very well been a 2022 game. And it seems like, according to everyone across the industry, I was spot on my reporting about E3. And this comes from the same source who told me about Aspire and KOTOR and who told me about Lucasfilm Games and Microsoft. So one of those is correct. One of those we will see, and this one sort of in the middle, but I understand how some people feel. So what I did was, as a responsible reporter, I acknowledged, hey, my information is different from a report everyone's talking about now saying Starfield's coming out in 2022. So I emailed Jason Schreier, pretty much saying to him, hey, here's what I've been told, here's what I heard, here's the track record of my source that's been pretty reliable, and here's what you're saying. Has something happened internally? Has something occurred when it comes to Bethesda? Because it looked like everyone across the industry was saying late 2021, but then all of a sudden you had Liana Rupert coming out saying, no, that's not the case. Tom Warren came out, and then you had Jason Schreier come out, and they're all saying, no, it's not coming out this year. That report is false. Almost to me seeming like everyone heard something at the same time, because if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see that I said I heard recently 2022 as well. And then Skulzy reported, and I said, hey man, you put it out there first. I want to go ahead and put it out there so that everyone knows that should be the expectation. So with all of that in mind, I asked Jason Schreier what's going on, and here's what he said. Hey Maddie, I'm going to leave it at my tweets for the time being. Thanks for reaching out, though. Without coming off too entitled, I was a little surprised that Jason was more straightforward with Reset Era than myself, saying, for what it's worth, it appears to me that the majority of the largely false rumors that have been circulating so far came from the Microsoft side of things. My sources are people working on the game. This would create a very interesting perspective of why reports are conflicting, meaning that the sources are likely reliable, and if you look at what just happened with Halo Infinite trying to push that out in the fall versus maybe what 343 knew about the game, it suddenly makes a little bit more sense where Bethesda and Microsoft may be on different standings on when this game should release. That is, however, speculative. So I've said this before, this is kind of what I mean about my pipeline. I wanted to do the follow-up and see if there was additional context I could offer, but it seems like, and I don't want to speculate too hard, Jason knows more of the situation of what's going on, and he will talk about it when he talks about it. So I tried to get more follow-up information on what maybe happened internally, if anything at all, by the way. That's just my speculation, but I couldn't get anything. So I do apologize for that, but at the end of the day, it seems like everyone's reports sort of lined up with the 2022 aspect and the E3 part, but really in the middle of that was that 2021 window, which was way too commonly discussed amongst insiders, reliable reporters, where it seemed like something was going on there that changed. I don't know what that could be. I'm not going to speculate because it paints a target right on my back, and then it allows these journalists to kind of do what happened to Luke Stevens, where you just kind of get pulled out there and you're like, you know what? I'll let them talk when they want to talk, because at this point, we're so close. Let's just wait and see what exactly Bethesda has up their sleeves. So speaking of which, let's get into that point of the conversation, because I know a lot of you are really anticipating that, but I thought the information part of it was also really important. E3, baby. E3 is seemingly happening, all right? And that is something we've talked about very extensively, but it's not on the level of what I think some people had thought in their heads. We didn't know what level it would be at, like Todd Howard being on stage for a while, like that half-hour presentation he's typically known for. And it's looking more and more like Microsoft is stepping in and transforming things more than we had anticipated. Bethesda Game Studios, you cannot fault yourself, even if you didn't pay attention to insider reports, for expecting that if this game was being shown at E3, we would see Starfield come out in the fall, because Bethesda Game Studios, since Fallout 4, has established that habit of saying, hey, we're going to reveal and release as closely as possible, as per the quote I highlighted from Todd Howard just last year. It's not wrong to think that, but I think this is some Microsoft intervention here. Hey, show them the game. Give Xbox fans something to be excited about. This is their opportunity to take a window, probably confirm exclusivity, let people know what's going on with the game, and let folks cool down before you actually ramp up the marketing cycle later on, especially when Bethesda has QuakeCon confirmed for this year. That's a possible place we could see more Starfield. That's just a guess on my behalf. But what's happening is I think now we can sort of shrink the expectations for Starfield based off what we know to something along the lines of a typical gameplay trailer, and that would be awesome to see. It also could just be a story trailer. They may just wait to show us the game in general until it's ready to go, because to me, I'd be really confused if Bethesda Game Studios showed off a gameplay trailer in 21 and then waited till 22 to release the game. That just doesn't seem like them. So my expectations fall more in the camp of, and I don't know what they're going to do, but it falls more in the camp of a story trailer, kind of telling us what the universe of Starfield is, which could be very valuable. It's a brand new IP. If you look at some of my older Starfield videos, one thing I suggested, reports aside, was that this could benefit Bethesda because it is a brand new IP. It's not a Fallout, it's not an Elder Scrolls, it's not easily recognizable, popular, and super easy to market for them in turn. This is a brand new IP, and so they need to make it important. They need to make sure people know. So with all that there, it's going to be very interesting to see what Bethesda exactly presents and where it falls in the show. I'm super excited to see it. Nonetheless, I'm way too curious about the game. And with all these leaks occurring and all these reports, I'm sure Bethesda is just anxious to get it out there. But I also think if they're going to do something along those lines, I don't know if Bethesda's going to do their typical pre-E3 teaser like they usually do for these types of game releases like Fallout 76, like Fallout 4. I think they may just want to drop it and start talking about it after the fact. This also impacts Bethesda and Xbox in particular ways if it releases late 2022 like Jason is reporting. Number one is Bethesda has a pretty stacked fall already. You've got yourself Deathloop coming out this year. That seems to be a lock at the very minimum. Ghostwire Tokyo, it's been very quiet on that front. I'd be kind of surprised if they released it this year, but it still says 21, which I don't know, maybe it gets a surprise re-reveal and it's coming out this year as another big PlayStation exclusive for the fall. That would be interesting to see Bethesda drop 2 of those big exclusives in the fall. On top of that, though, Xbox benefits because one thing that Game Pass really benefits from in its growth is additive content, right? Another new thing, another new big thing, another new big thing, and they keep doing that. So when you take this bin of games, you take Halo Infinite, you put it in there, you take Forza Horizon 5 in there, Starfield, Wolfenstein 3, I think Age of Empires 4 is another possibility, and then you throw in whatever's going to be at E3, and you sort of scatter out the pieces of the puzzle. You've got yourself a very interesting layout for Game Pass where maybe it benefits not only Starfield, but it benefits Game Pass, the place that's going to really get Starfield its numbers, to have it ready for deeper in 2022, like the fall of 2022, which is way further off than I think any of us are expecting. And we'll talk about how long it's actually been since we've seen Bethesda Game Studios do that in just a moment. But if you can get, say, you have Halo this fall, and then you've got Forza early 2022, and then you got Wolfenstein in the spring, you've got other stuff in the summer, and then towards the later part, we start to talk about Fable, we start to talk about Starfield. Xbox can really start to get these rolling quarters. It's a thing I talked about a lot in podcasts, is that if they can get their ducks in a row between the Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda, quality aside, right? Quality aside, that's something we're going to have to wait and see on. But in the terms of rolling big name releases, Xbox can have a big release every quarter right now with 23 owned studios. And we may be starting to see that come into motion. And that's why you're going to start to see them do the longer term marketing. Xbox likes to do these CGI trailers for some reason and show off games and concepts early. I imagine there was some internal influence there. That would be my guess as to why we're seeing it this year rather than next year. As for the notion of Bethesda reveals to releases, let's say it is revealed at E3 2021 like we expect, and they do say, hey, 2022 is the year, right? This is when it's happening. It's coming out then. That'll be the first time we see that long of a stretch between the two games since Skyrim. That was when Bethesda came out at the Game Awards, I want to say, and then they announced it, revealed it, and then later on they did a QuakeCon gameplay showcase, 30 minutes. It was very typical because Bethesda Game Studios was not a creature of habit then, where with Fallout 4 and 76 they established something much more appealing, but also things that fans loved and what became the Bethesda formula. Now that's changing, and so that's going to be very strange to see. It also opens up the possibility, because Jason didn't say like fall 2022 if this ends up being the case. This could open up where Bethesda's releasing out of the fall for the first time since Oblivion. Oblivion was a spring game in 2006. That was the last time they did that. That's crazy to think about. Wow. So there is a chance that Bethesda falls in the summer. And I mean, hey, summer games are usually pretty boring, so I'm cool with it. Regardless, there's a lot of stuff that needs to shake out, and it's why I'm saying, and I said it in Defining Duke, and I'm saying it in Ham Radio, I'm just keeping my reports to myself because I've heard different things and interesting stuff about the gameplay and the story, and it's like, that's the type of stuff you just keep to yourself, because at this point, we're so close, who knows, and honestly, who cares? Because I know most of what I've reported so far has been pretty spot on between it being possibly in 2022, it being at E3, the 2021 part. I feel like if Jason says more, that should create some type of perspective on what's happening with Bethesda, if anything at all. But that's all I've got for you in this video. Pretty long-winded discussion. I do hope you all enjoyed this. I'm curious to see your thoughts in the comments down below, so let me know what you're thinking. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. Other than that, big thank you to all the patrons. We're pushing close to 500. That is absolutely mind-boggling. Thank you so much for believing what I do here. I appreciate you all. You are going to see a lot of Maddie 2.0 content coming very soon. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.